Alrighty, kiddos. So today we're going to be going over lesson 17 and 3/10, or lesson 17.3, dot plots and data distribution. The state of Texas expects y'all to be able to interpret numeric data summarized in dot plots. Which brings us to our first part of it here. Variable data and statistical questions. The question, how much does a typical cat weigh, is an example of a statistical question. A statistical question is a question that has many different or variable answers. Letter A. Decide whether each of the situations below could yield variable data. Your sister wants to know the typical weight for an adult cat. Think about that, kiddos. All right. So, what do y'all think? Number one, ladies and gentlemen, that is a variable. It can yield variable data. Because it depends on adult cats. Some adult cat can weigh 10 pounds, another one can weigh 5-6 pounds. Just depends on the breed and I guess the way that they're being taken care of, so to say. So that one, ladies and gentlemen, is variable. What about number two? You want to know how tall your friend is. Does that vary from one day to the next? Let's say he's just barefoot, he's not wearing shoes, changing shoes or anything like that. From one day, is he gonna be taller? No. So that does not vary. That is non-variable. What about number three? You want to know how far your house is from school. Does that vary? No, ladies and gentlemen. Unless you guys move, that is non-variable. What about number four? A car owner wants to know how much money people usually pay for a new tire. Does that vary? Yeah, of course it does. Depending on the tire that you buy, if you buy a brand name like a BF Goodrich or something, it's going to cost you more than, let's say the Walmart brand. What about number five? How many students were in line for lunch at the cafeteria today at 12:30? Well, that does not vary at all. It's going to be the same amount of students there. Okay. Letter B. For which of the situations in part A can you write a statistical question? Here, ladies and gentlemen, it could be for 1 and 4. Question 1 and question 4. And then let's say, for example, for number 1, they want to know, her sister wants to know the typical weight of an adult cat. But if we're going to change it into a statistical question, let's say if we're going to go around the room, we could say, okay, what is the weight of a typical adult cat? And then we could go around the room, okay, so-and-so, what do you think? Then the person behind you, so what do you think? The person behind them, what do you think? And we could gather data. And this is what the book suggests. And we could also go around the room, like how much we could call like Walmart, how much does a typical tire cost? I would call, let's say, Target, how much does a typical tire cost? And Costco and Sam's and so forth. All right, so next, making a dot plot. Statistical questions are answered by collecting and analyzing data. One way to understand a set of data is to make a visual display. A dot plot is a visual display in which each piece of data is represented by a dot above a number line. A dot plot shows a frequency of each data value. We're given example number 1. A baseball team manager records the number of runs scored by the team in each game for several weeks. Use the data to make a dot plot. All right, so here we're given a set of data, ladies and gentlemen, and they're asking us to make a dot plot. So here, find the smallest number and the largest number. The smallest number here, ladies and gentlemen, is 0, and the largest number is right next to it, which is 11, which you could see goes from right there, okay? All right, so how many times did, let's say in any games, was there a game when they scored 0 runs? Yes, there was. So that's why we'll put 1 there. Next, or you guys can leave that, cross that way, it doesn't confuse you guys. What about games when there was only 1 run? We have 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. And so forth, like that, ladies and gentlemen. That's how they come up with that dot plot. Okay. So number 2, reflect. How many games did the team play during the season? How can you tell from looking at the dot plot? So if we're given this information here, ladies and gentlemen, how could we determine how many games they played? What do y'all think? Well, if we read the example again, ladies and gentlemen, they're telling us that the baseball manager here, the baseball team manager, records the number of runs scored by the team in each game. So in each one of these data values here represents a game. So if you count them all right there, ladies and gentlemen, we know that there were a total of 19 games played. Because if you guys count, no. Oh, there goes that. Sorry, kiddos. Power's been going down. So right there is 19 games because there's 19 dots there. And question number 3, ladies and gents, or reflect number 3, at how many games did the team score 2 runs or fewer? And how do you know? Well, right here, ladies and gentlemen, here's where we have 2 runs. But are we including 2 runs? Yes. So it's 2 runs and fewer. If you guys count all of these dots here, you guys will see that there was a total of 10 games in which they scored 2 runs or fewer. But make sure you guys read the questions carefully because sometimes they can ask you less than 2 runs, but not including 2 runs, you know? I'd like for y'all to try number 4. Alrighty, so a different baseball team scores the following numbers of runs in its games for several weeks. And this is what y'all should have had, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. Alright, so moving on. Interpreting a dot plot. A dot plot can give you a visual picture of the spread, center, and shape of a data distribution. You can describe the spread of a data set by identifying the least and greatest values. You can also look for outliers, which are data values that are either much greater or much less than the other data values. You can describe the center and shape of a data set in terms of peaks, clusters, or symmetry. A symmetric distribution has approximately the same number of data values on either side of the center. Now we have example number 2. Ladies and gents, please take notes on these, please. Please take notes here. That's important for you all. That comes up in 7th grade as well. Example number 2. Describe the spread, center, and shape of each data distribution. Letter A. The data values are spread out from 3 to 7 with no outliers. The data has a cluster from 3 to 7 with one peak at 5, which is the center of the distribution. The distribution is symmetric. The data values are clustered around the center of the distribution. So they're just using different ways of describing the data that's presented right here, ladies and gentlemen, on that dot plot. Letter B. The data values are spread out from 1 to 9 because 1 is the smallest value or the smallest number where we have some data, and 9 is the greatest one where we have some data. So that's a spread. The data value 1 appears to be an outlier because it's all by itself over here. Is there like any values close to it? No. So that's what you guys considered an outlier. The data has a cluster from 6 to 9 with one peak at 9, which is the greatest value in a data set. The distribution is not symmetric. The data values are clustered at one end of the distribution. And they're never going to have you guys describe it. They're going to have you guys like go through different answer choices in which they're describing the data presented, and you guys have to choose the best one. All right, so moving on. Describe the spread, center, and shape of the distribution from example number 1. So go ahead and look in your packets, guys, or in wherever you guys have it. If you guys have it on a different tab, or you guys can have the different tabs, or just try to print out that page. Here's example number 1, ladies and gentlemen. All right, this is what y'all should have had. So the spread is from 0 to 11. 11 appears to be an outlier. And that's just some of the descriptions that they gave you guys, okay? Alrighty, next. Finding measures from a dot plot. You can also find and calculate measures of center and spread from a dot plot. The dot plot, example number 3. The dot plot shows a number of runs scored by a baseball team in each game for several weeks from example number 1. Letter A. Find the mean, median, and range of the data. So step one, here, ladies and gentlemen, they're giving it to you guys, so please make sure you guys read through this here. What I'd like for y'all to do here in this situation, ladies and gentlemen, I want you guys to highlight wherever it says the mean, median, and range of the data. For example, right there, they're telling you the median. Right to that mean. There's the range. Make sure you guys highlight those because you guys will be using these, you guys will be, well, referencing these examples as you guys progress through your independent and guided practice later on, okay? All right, which brings us to number 6. Your turn. Find the mean, median, and range of the data from your turn question 4, which I went ahead and did put up there. What is a typical number of runs the team scores in a game? Justify your answer. Alrighty, and this is what y'all should have had, kiddos. All right, so moving on. I'd like for you all to go ahead and work on the guided practice, questions 1 through 5. And on the independent practice, I'd like for y'all to go up to question number 14. All the way up to question 14, please, okay? Thank you, kiddos. I wish you the best of luck. You all can reference back through the examples that were there, okay?